So it appears that we have a bigger problem in this world than people realize. The problem, Russia. And I don't want to, down the road here, say, I told you so. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to provide a history lesson. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the well, not the Holodomor first, or maybe I will. Let's do that. Let's just go ahead and do that. The Holodomor derived from to kill by starvation. That's what it means. Was a man-made famine in the Soviet Ukraine in 1932 and 1933 that killed millions of Ukrainians. It is also known as the terror famine and famine genocide in Ukraine, and sometimes referred to as the Great Famine or the Ukrainian genocide of 1932 to 1933. It was a part of a wider Soviet famine of 32 and 33, which affected the major grain-producing areas of the country. During the Holodomor, millions of inhabitants of Ukraine, a majority of whom were ethnic Ukrainians, died of starvation and peacetime catastrophe, unprecedented in the history of Ukraine. Since 2006, the Holodomor has been recognized by Ukraine and 15 other countries as a genocide of the Ukrainian people carried out by the Soviet government. Early estimates of the death toll by scholars and government officials vary greatly. According to the higher estimates, up to 12 million ethnic Ukrainians were said to have perished as a result of the famine. A UN joint statement signed by 25 countries in 2003 declared that 7 to 10 million people perished. I'll go down to where it says right here. Some scholars believe that the famine was planned by Joseph Stalin to eliminate a Ukrainian independence movement, using the Holodomor as in reference to the famine emphasizes its man-made aspects, arguing that actions such as rejection of outside aid, confiscation of household foodstuffs, and restrictions of population movement confer intent, defining the famine as genocide. The loss of life that has been compared to that of the Holocaust. The causes are still a subject of academic debate, and some historians dispute its characteristics as a genocide. So what we have here, now look, folks, ethnically, the Russians and the Ukrainians are brothers. Okay, they were at one time one country called Kiev Rus. Now, let's look at, no, not the Budapest Memorandum. Let's look at the Munich Agreement for a minute. Okay, as everybody should know by now, if anybody has learned history in their school, in public school, which I'm deeply concerned that there is extreme lack thereof, but right now would be a good time to learn some history if you haven't. The Munich Agreement. British and French Prime Ministers Neville Chamberlain and Edouard Daladier signed the Munich Pact with Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. The agreement averted the outbreak of war but gave Czechoslovakia away to German conquest. Okay, what is the Munich Agreement and who was involved? Mussolini persuaded Hitler to attend four-power peace conference in Munich on the 29th of September. The conference was held between four leaders: Hitler for Germany, Mussolini for Italy, Chamberlain for Britain, and Daladier for France. The Soviet Union and Czechoslovakia were not invited. Okay, so what is the Munich Agreement of 1938? Munich Agreement, now please folks remember this date, September 30th, 1938. It's important. The Munich Agreement settlement reached by Germany, Great Britain, France, and Italy that permitted German annexation of the Sudetenland in western Czechoslovakia. Yes, we just talked about Russia, did we not? Wasn't there a annexation of some land by Russia recently? Now, granted, it was back in 2014. What is, how many years ago is that? 4 years ago, all right? Now, one would have to admit that Adolf Hitler was more covert than he was overt. Got it backwards. One must admit that Adolf Hitler was more overt than he was covert. Okay? Today, we have the same thing going on, except the leader of Russia is more covert. He's more stealthy. It takes him a little bit longer to get what he wants to, but it's the same pattern, folks. It's the same pattern. Now, how long did it take from the Munich Agreement of 1938 until Great Britain was forced to declare war on, or Great Britain and France was forced to declare on Germany? Does anybody know? Exactly 1 year. September 1939. France and Great Britain was forced to declare war on Nazi Germany because they invaded Poland. Okay? Now, let's go to the Budapest Memorandum of 1994. In December 5th, 1994, the leaders of Ukraine, Russia, Britain, and the United States signed a memorandum to provide Ukraine with security assurances. Notice those two words, security assurances, folks. In connection with its accession to the NPT as a non-nuclear weapon state. The four parties signed the memorandum containing a preamble and 6 paragraphs. The memorandum reads as follows. The United States of America, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland welcome the accession of Ukraine to the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons as a non-nuclear weapon state. Taking into account the commitment of Ukraine to eliminate all nuclear weapons from its territory within a specified period of time, noting the changes in the worldwide security situations, including the end of the Cold War, which have brought about conditions for deep reductions in nuclear forces, confirm the following. Number 1, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirmed their commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the final act of the Conference on the Security of Cooperation in Europe, to respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of Ukraine. I hope you heard that. If not, you can read it along with me. Number 2, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America affirm or reaffirm their obligation to refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of Ukraine, and that none of their weapons will ever be used against Ukraine except in self-defense or otherwise in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. Number 3, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the final act of the Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe, to refrain from economic coercion designed to subordinate their own interest, the exercise by Ukraine of the rights inherent in this sovereignty, and thus to secure advantages of any kind. Number 4, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and United States of America reaffirm their commitment to seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine as a non-nuclear weapon state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons if Ukraine should become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of a threat of aggression in which nuclear weapons are used. Number 5, the Russian Federation, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the United States of America reaffirm in the case of Ukraine their commitment not to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon state party to the treaty, or the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons except in the case of attack on themselves, their territories or their dependent territories, their armed forces or their allies by such a state in association or alliance with a nuclear weapon state. That can be misread, folks. Number 6, Ukraine, the Russian Federation, and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the United States of America will consult in the event a situation arises that raises a question concerning these commitments. Folks, what we have here is a violation by the Russian Federation of the Budapest Memorandum. But the first violation happened in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea. The Russian Federation committed to leaving the territories, the borders of Ukraine as they were, in exchange for Ukraine giving up nuclear weapons. And when Russia violated this agreement, well, the United States and other nations sanctioned Russia and continue to sanction Russia, but it doesn't seem to work, does it? Apparently not. These violations after violation after violation continues. And now with Russia extending their tentacles in the Middle East, you can expect the very same thing. What we have here is a second Adolf Hitler. What we have here is another Nazi, let me rephrase that. You see, the Nazis were the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. Does that name sound familiar to you? It should, because it sounds communist. And in a way it is. The only difference is it is National Social. Now wait a minute. Based upon the Holodomor, Joseph Stalin acted like a National Socialist too, did he not? Even he displaced peoples based upon their national origin all around the Soviet Union. He did. In fact, he displaced the Tartars who were in Crimea and sent them to Siberia, did he not? This was based upon National Socialism. And what he did with Ukraine was National Socialism, even though Ukrainians and Russia are ethnically brothers. And many other ethnic groups in Russia was done the same way as the Tartars were. And so, what is my point here? My point here is people need to understand that the world is in extremely grave danger. I mean, extremely grave danger. You see, what is the difference between World War II or maybe 1938 and today? What's the difference? What is the one thing that's different? Nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, folks. There's your difference. And that's your only difference. We've got the same problem cropping up, this time the bully in the world, has the most nuclear weapons, has the largest ground military force in the world. And of course, who wants to go and fight against Russia today? Who's big enough? Who's man enough? Who's got the balls to fight Russia today? Well, if you read Ezekiel 38 and 39, the Northern Army seeking to take the Golan Heights from Israel is going to be made an example out of. And by this big bully, this Goliath, the world is going to find out who our Father in heaven stands with. Little David, Israel. And folks, everybody had better wake up and realize that we've got trouble, big trouble with this latest fiasco in the Sea of Azov, the Kerch Strait, and Crimea, because it appears that the president of Russia is moving from covert to overt in his style. And that's extremely dangerous. And I don't think the world is ready. In fact, I'm certain that the world is far from ready, is mesmerized and seduced by the social media, the internet, PCs, smartphones, all the accoutrements of modern technology, so as not to notice that everything could be taken away just like that. So hopefully this history lesson has been helpful, and this might be my last video for today. Please be watchful, be careful, keep your eye on the news, and if you don't like your news sources, change them.